Hi! This is my first YouTube video. Now, I'm a Canadian who was born in the mid to late 90s and watched a great deal of television. I'm also particularly fond of puppets. I think that's all you really need to know about me right now. Anyways, I assume if you clicked on this video you are also a Canadian born in the 80s, 90s, or early 2000s. For those who aren't those things, thanks for tuning in. If I were to ask you Canadian folks, what was your favorite puppet show growing up? Some people would say shows created in the United States, including Sesame Street, The Muppet Show, Eureka's Castle, maybe Bear in the Big Blue House, as those shows were everywhere on Canadian and American television, and many homes had access to channels like PBS. Other people might say their favorite puppet show was Canadian. This includes shows like Under the Umbrella Tree, Whimsy's House, Dudley the Dragon, Freaky Stories, Professor Iris, and maybe even Nanaland for those who weren't absolutely terrified of her. All of these are wonderful shows, and they are just as watchable today as they were 20 plus years ago. Now, as I said a few moments ago, I love puppets. I have watched everything I could with a puppet in them. And I would like to share some of the ones from my home country that don't get very much love. So here are 5 relatively obscure, but awesome Canadian puppet shows from my childhood that you probably don't remember. Number 5 on my list is Wumpa's World. As a Canadian, I grew up watching Wumpa's World on Treehouse TV. Wumpa's World aired originally from 2001 to 2002 and was created by Stephen Westron. He has also worked on shows like The Cat in the Hat Knows a Lot About That and Almost Naked Animals. The show is about a walrus who tells viewers stories that take place in the Arctic. His tales involve characters such as 2 little snowmobiles, a polar bear, and a cute little Arctic hare. It aired in both China and Canada and featured a predominantly Indigenous cast. Considering in the past many puppeteers and voice actors were predominantly white, I appreciate that this 20-year-old show casted Indigenous puppeteers and actors for the roles. This includes Lauren Cardinal as Wumpa, who you may know from Corner Gas, and Janny Lausen as Sika, who has been on so many shows including Iris the Happy Professor, Mr. Dressup, and another iconic Canadian show, Groundling Marsh. I found online that the show allegedly still airs late at night or very early in the morning, but I have not seen this show since at least 2007 on television. It might still be there though. Previous to 2017, I couldn't find any videos online of it, apart from the theme song. Now there are full episodes available for you to watch if you are interested in this adorable show that will open your heart and mind to the Great White North.
Wonderful Wumpa's World.
Ruffus the Dog was a television show that originally ran from 1998 to 1999 on YTV. It was created by Robert Mills and co-developed with Cheryl Wagner, who also created a show you might know called The Big Comfy Couch. So the character Rufus first appeared in the early 90s in an educational video series called The Adventures of Rufus and Andy. Robert Mills' own production company, Radical Sheep Productions, produced the show. When Robert left Radical Sheep in 2002, he created another company called Hunky Dory Entertainment, which distributes Rufus works, including new material such as A Christmas Carol. Recently, Robert has been trying to fund a new Rufus production, Ruffus the Dog's Steampunk Adventure, but it appears to be getting off to a slow start, with little info coming after 2014 online. However, if it does happen, I would love to be a part of it. And if not, I'd love to see it. Anyways, the show is about a dog who owns a bookstore and does retellings of famous stories, including Rapunzel, Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, Gulliver's Travels, and Jack and the Beanstalk. I used to watch this show on YTV, and I absolutely loved the theme song and the character Rufus himself. Thankfully, Robert has made most of these episodes available online, so you can easily watch them.
Staring out into the blue on a dreamboat setting sail, spinning a Grimm's Brothers yarn to catch a ferry by the tail. barking a fable out in the...
The Bittles is a show that aired on Treehouse and YTV from 2003 to 2008-ish. There were 3 seasons produced during this time. I remember watching this show one day before going out with my mother to a church bazaar, and then for the next 16 years being unable to figure out what show it was. Finally, I stumbled upon it in late 2019 and was over the moon about finding it. I honestly thought it might have just been a dream. Now, there is very little information about this show available online. Thankfully, there are a couple of episodes available to watch. The show centers around 3 purple Bittles named Comma, Lolly, and Grump. They work turning stories into books at a little factory. Most of the episodes are spent reading a storybook to viewers. I read about what appears to be a spin-off of the show called Lights, Camera, Action Bittles, but I can't find any information regarding if this is the same show under a different name or an actual spin-off. A show this obscure is hard to find out any info about, but it did feature puppeteers and voice actors including Julie Lemieux, Jeff Sweeney, and Frank Mushklet. I would recommend watching one of the 2 episodes available online and see if you remember it.
There's a tiny little world. Come on, let's take a look. We're quite little. We have backs and front.
A few months ago, I was able to interview a puppeteer who has done a lot of really cool work. However, I was absolutely enthralled by the fact that they worked on this very obscure Canadian puppet show called Little Star. When I was a baby, I would not eat until my mother put on Little Star. Then I would sit there with my mouth agape and mindlessly eat as I watched the show intently. I was obsessed with this show. It ran from 1994 to 1997 on Treehouse TV. It features a group of space puppets living on a space station called Mimosa, and a cartoon star named Little Star. No one I know remembers this show, or they remember it being terrifying and never watched it. However, it is a very sweet show, and there is at least 1 episode now available online after years of me trying to convince people of its existence. It also has a bop of a theme song. Take a watch and see if you remember this. Kingdom Adventure was and still is one of my favorite puppet-based shows. It doesn't seem like the show was filmed in Canada, but I vividly remember watching it every morning as a child. It came on after Littlest Hobo on maybe the Book Channel? I don't really remember. However, the rights to the show are now owned by Tricord Media, which is run out of Burlington, Ontario. So therefore, I will say this is a Canadian show. Now, once again, it's hard to find information on this television series. It originally only ran for 1 season in 1990, but has been rerunning for quite some time. It is a fantasy-based show taking inspiration from J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. It takes place in a magical land called Lumia, which is threatened by an evil wizard. This wizard murdered the prince who once ruled the kingdom, but the prince comes back in spirit to aid 2 little puppet peasants who go on to save the kingdom from evil. Now, this was a Christian show, and biblical allegories are now very clear to me. However, the characters were amazing, the plot was excellent, the animation puppet hybrid works well, and there were even some very scary moments that made for quite a tense and also adventurous tale. I really recommend this show, and watching some episodes online again really makes it clear how well made this show was.
Let's sing, everybody.
Lumia forever, shine the light we sing. Lumia forever, joyous news we bring. Lumia, Lumia, Lumia shine the light we sing. Lumia forever, joyous news we bring.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to 5 of the most obscure Canadian puppet shows. If you have anything you'd like to add to the mix, let me know. Maybe I'll make a part 2. Anyways, talk to you later.